I mean, within a week of engaging with you and having our first session and kind of learning automated messaging, we had got a response back from a customer we had worked with before. It was a controller at a previous company, but he had made a move to another company. We hadn't talked to him since he made the move. Reached out from one of our messages and said, "Hey, I'm interested. I have a senior accountant role open." We engaged in the search, and within, I think, 3 weeks, we had filled the job. So it definitely resulted in immediate value. But now we're 4 months since then. I think we've had at least one other client search filled, and then I think 2 candidates we've sourced from automated messaging. So good practical placement results, but really the broader benefit is just having good, valuable conversation. I was hearing success stories from even before your session at the Dallas meeting, was, hearing success stories on what automated messaging could do. It's something obviously I've heard about for years. And one wasn't really even sure how the mechanics of it worked and how would it fold into our business. And so hearing success stories, but then, hearing a little deeper, it can be valuable if you do it the right way and you utilize it in a way that's professional and still has a personal touch. And then, always kind of thinking about content, and exposing ourselves to just a broader audience. We are, again, very specific in the market we serve and the industry we serve, but we're still not interacting with more than 5% of the potential customers in our own specific little market here in Columbus. So I think just, kind of figuring out, hey, we need to let people know that we're doing good work. And how do we do that on a broader scale? Because content's such a daunting, to me, maybe not to every person that's a recruiting firm owner, but to me, it's daunting to think about, how do I create this content? Like, I have to type it out, come up with the ideas, and then make the whole article or blog post, however you want it to, be out to your audience. But it just feels daunting. It feels like a big task, and it's like a little ambiguous of what do you do and how do I do it? But having conversations with you and kind of thinking about, where do you pull content, or where could you pull content from? The aha moment was realizing, like, it's actually just the conversations that your team is having, you and your team are having every day. And if you just spend an extra minute or 30 seconds and reflect back on the conversation, like, I was talking to a candidate, today about interview prep, and, think back to that conversation and what tips did you give that person, or what big questions did they have that you felt like maybe you helped with. That's your content. Your content is the conversations and value that your team is adding throughout every day. You just have to then take a little bit of time and reflect on it, kind of button it up or package it up, and then figure out, again, how do you get it to your audience? So it's, realizing that we were doing all of those things that really generated content. We just had to figure out how to package it. I had previously felt like I didn't have the time, but it's more than that. It's like the time and the uncertainty of what is content. What do people even want to hear? Do they want to hear from me? Do they care? And so that is kind of all that stuff that weighs on you. Like, do they want to hear your messaging? Or is there a better message? I think it's easy to overthink content. I talked a lot about that. Like, I'll start writing a draft of something, and it's like, oh, is this even that good? Like, I'll sit on it and come back, but do you really need to do that? Like, it's not going to be better if you wait an hour or 2 hours or 3 days. So I think there's just lots of blocks that kind of get in your head that really were a barrier. But, working with you kind of helped get through that and realize that, like, yeah, your audience, if they're your audience, they do want to hear from you. And the work, if you believe the work you're doing, that was kind of, again, what related to the big aha is, like, I know my team is kicking butt. We're making great placements. We're having conversations every hour with candidates where we take a consultative approach and try to add value. And we're doing great work. So I believe strongly in that. If we can, relate that to our content, not in an overly cocky way and say, hey, we're the best, but let people know, like, we're here for you and believe we do great work and we'll add value. That's the content right there. I would say, I've said consistent 1,000 times, but you were, like, very consistently represented, brought yourself, like, we had good meetings that were reoccurring. You kept schedule, like, which is huge for us because we're carving out time as a team. Right. And you were also flexible when we had to bend a little bit. But I mean, you were consistently there for us when we needed you. Again, flexible if we had to bend. And then also, I would say very, I said this word a lot too, but very consultative with us. You would listen to what we were going through. Like, our sessions would begin with that a lot. What we're at this stage of our automated messaging kind of journey. Here's some of the issues we're running into. And you would just dive in and say, okay, well, let's go to this section of Relevant Recruiter, kind of look at, like, where we can maybe, refine, or let's look at your messaging, let's tweak it. We'd get to send you stuff in advance. You take a look at it and give us feedback beforehand, which is super helpful. So I think, very value add in regards to like your approach and how you would help us kind of figure out what works for us. And that's, I think, big, like with any kind of marketing or branding, everyone's going to respond to it. Even our own team, people responded and took to it in different ways, right? So it can't just be one canned, hey, do it this way, and this will be how you should do it, because that's your brand. Isn't that your brand is not just something that's carved in a box. It's you and your firm and your team and your market and your candidates. It's everything all folded together. So it's going to end up working differently for different people, and messaging, is part of that. So I appreciated your approach was kind of open-minded and helped us figure out what worked for us. I mean, talk to people who've worked with you and see what they have to say. I mean, that helped me, obviously, having Alex and the team at Talents give the reference, but I'm not going to lie, called them before we engaged to say, hey, what were the good things about Donnie? What were the bad things? And, it was good to have that reference. So I'd say if someone's on the fence, they can reach out to me. They can reach out. I know you've got lots of references, so reach out to someone that, may be able to give you insight into what it's like to work with Donnie. But also, I mean, taking the leap's not a bad thing. I mean, if you feel like you're at a crossroads and you need help, on creating a brand or content that's, relevant to your audience, I think that, obviously it was very successful for us, and I would recommend it. So I think we're finding that customers find us more regularly and candidates recognize us a little more frequently. So that's helping us, get past the initial barrier of our first conversation, and overall business is good. So I definitely expect continued growth.
How did you get your team to buy into being a content creator, to leveraging these new systems? I mean, because I know that was something that was important to you when we initially talked, was making sure that they were on board with this. It's not just you that implemented this. We did this with the whole team. How did you kind of motivate them and get them on board, and what was their response from it?
I think a lot of it is just sharing success. I mean, to be honest, like every member of the team, kind of initial thoughts different. There are people who temperatures I'm really in, or, hey, I'm not sure if this is going to be the right thing. So all of that's okay. And if you're not sure, I think, that's fine with me. I think it's seeing successes and hearing successes helps people get more motivated, or help them, team kind of get more motivated to buy into the automated messaging and content, at the level that they're comfortable with. So it's been a good thing. I mean, like I said, it's resulted in more placements that were, again, completely generated from that. And also, initial feedback from branding content, again, we're getting a positive response. It's always hard in marketing. We've had a lot of conversations about this. You can't directly quantify, hey, I made this post and then I made this placement. It's just a lot of, you have more conversations. It's funny. I mean, I have had conversations. This is part of the aha moment as well. Like, someone will say, oh yeah, I saw that post 2 months ago that you put up, you guys went on a retreat, and like, they didn't like it. They didn't comment on it, no interaction, but they saw it, and it was a positive reaction to them. And like that, if you have those things happen, you may never know you made a placement due to that, or had an extra interview or an extra, client job order intake, but it's happening. So you have to kind of be excited about it and continue to represent consistently there.